I'm here today with Lisa Wolff, who is the Director of Policy and Research at UNICEF Canada, which has a mission to advance the rights of Canada's children to develop their fullest potential, consistent with international human rights standards. Lisa received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal from the Governor-General of Canada in 2012. Lisa, thanks so much for making time for us. I want to come to your personal journey a little bit. Is there anything you can tell us about how you personally got interested in well-being measurement and this concept of well-being for children and youth?
Yes, well, I've been with UNICEF Canada for close to 15 years, and I've had the opportunity to work with the UNICEF Report Card Series during that time. I think I've worked with at least 10 UNICEF report cards. The UNICEF Report Card Series has been in place for about 2 decades, so for a whole generation of kids now. It is an incredibly unique data communication tool that compares countries with similar wealth in terms of their performance in child and youth well-being, according to very fundamental indicators that you can actually compare across rich countries. And over time, what we've seen, Canada's performance has been falling relative to other countries. Even though we're one of the richest countries, we have some of the worst outcomes now for children. And this, it is something that I think, always surprises Canadians. They're always surprised to see this data. And I get lots of questions about the data itself rather than the bigger questions like, why? Why are we seeing this? And that's always interesting to me. But, again, there's a pattern here and it's incontrovertible. And I guess I've just been seized with trying to really understand and working with many stakeholders to understand why. Why are we seeing these patterns? Why are we seeing these outcomes that are so surprising? And I think really developing a deeper understanding over time of some of the things I've been talking about that are responsible for the outcomes, the policy shortcomings of widening income inequality in this country, and the systemic discrimination that racialized Indigenous children with diverse gender identities or sexual orientations are experiencing. It's become pretty crystal clear. And it's just been, motivating us as UNICEF Canada to do things like develop the Canadian Index of Child and Youth Wellbeing, to bring in more data that we can access in Canada, to keep building a better picture, tracking this as a social accountability effort. Governments have the duty to track how their kids are doing. Organizations like UNICEF can perform a social accountability function by reflecting back as well the data and interpreting it and helping other stakeholders use it for research grants to inform their policy advocacy and so on. And that's always been an exciting part of our work.
Can you tell me a little bit about the history of the Canadian Index of Child and Youth Wellbeing and history and also the uptake and also your hopes for it?
Yeah, sure. Well, the index, again, it was inspired by the UNICEF Report Card Series and developed as a companion to the UNICEF Report Cards to take a more expansive look at child and youth well-being in this country, because we could bring in more data that Canada has that you can't necessarily compare to other rich countries. And I think that the measures we're using are still, perfectly valid. In a pandemic world, as much as pre-pandemic, we want to see what's happening definitively with children's mental health, with their life satisfaction, with their material security, which has gone up and down, due to real changes in public policies with income benefits during the pandemic. How is that settled now? Has child poverty gone up or down?
And is it being used? Is it gained the attention that you hoped already in government?
Yeah, I mean, we've been using it as a basis to have some discussions with Finance Department and Statistics Canada on the Federal Quality of Life framework. There's actually a lot of alignment between what we're measuring for children in our index and the measures in the Federal Quality of Life framework. So it's very possible for that framework, for instance, to be sure to disaggregate measures for the child population and see how they're experiencing well-being differently than adults, which they often do. I mean, we often see a pattern in life satisfaction, for instance, where kids in Canada actually have lower life satisfaction than older adults report. So it's important just to see those patterns and understand why, and make children distinct. But I think one of the things that beyond the data has been really interesting to see flowing from the index is how different organizations are thinking differently about what is child and youth well-being, because we articulate 9 dimensions of well-being in the index. And we've seen one community actually re-articulate their strategies, strategic goals for children. They used to have 6, and now they have 9 goals for children aligned with the 9 dimensions of our index, because they recognized they were leaving out some key aspects of life, of well-being. And we've seen program developers modify how they measure program impacts, like youth program impacts or health program impacts, because they want to look for impacts across a wider range of aspects of children's lives and well-being than what they were used to doing.
Are there any other ongoing well-being policy related initiatives of UNICEF Canada at the moment that you'd like to tell us about?
We've defined our policy advocacy priorities and our youth program priorities based on what we've learned over the years from the UNICEF Report Card Series, from the Canadian Index of Child and Youth Wellbeing, and from paying attention, across sectors, as we do, working extensively across the child and youth sector in Canada with researchers and civil society organizations and with governments at different levels. We have a focus on advocating for continuing to build on the Canada Child Benefit to lift every child out of poverty. It is a thing that's possible to do. Parental leave is another policy we're advocating for. Currently, parental leave excludes 1/3 of infants because it is not designed as a social protection and care policy, but as an employment policy. So we're advocating that every infant should have protected paid time with a parent for the first 6 months of life. And then our youth programs engage young people in developing advocacy skills, working with data about their lives, unpacking data. We have a community survey of child and youth well-being that we've demonstrated in 4 cities and regions in the country that aligns with our Canadian Index of Well-being. And it's incredible what these communities are doing, working with young people around the data cycle, from deciding how to collect that data in the community to making sense of it with young people, to creating action plans with government participants and program providers. So that's an exciting initiative that we're soon ready to scale out to any community in Canada who wants to have good data to understand how their kids are doing under age 18.